Can't fight crime if you ain't cute. A Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction written and narrated by Mira Rose. Artwork for the opening and thumbnail image by Wakatsuki Megumi. You can find a link to their Pixiv in the description box. Don't forget to give them lots of love if you have a Pixiv account yourself, okay? Now then, if you haven't already or you're new here, don't forget to not only subscribe to this channel to stay up to date on the latest parts of your favorite fanfiction, but also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Bonus points if you leave a comment. If you don't know what to comment, put Adrienne's onesie. Now then, please enjoy Can't Fight Crime If You Ain't Cute. Adrienette in a reindeer outfit. Adrienne? Adrian looked up from his cell phone scrolling to see his girlfriend approaching him, dressed in a shawl and a maxi-length dress, a very different cute than his current aesthetic. "Oh," he said, giving her a once-over that turned into a twice-over. "When you said Christmas outfits, I thought..." "I can see that," Marinette laughed. She tugged the stuffed antler on his head. "Is this what you wore as a tryout for a new superhero identity or something?" "Can't fight crime if you ain't cute," he joked. "Oh, darling, you don't need a costume if that's your only requirement." Adrian blushed, masked by his already cold cheeks, at her implying that he's cute no matter what he wears. "I mean, same for you, but now it sounds like I'm just saying it because you did." "You think I'm cute?" She crossed her eyes and stuck out her tongue, and Adrian felt his heart stop and squeeze and take off running all in the same instant. He loved her. Well, at least he thought he did, but it was far too early to tell her that. They'd only been dating a week and a half, so how on earth could he confess his feelings to be anything other than teenage fancy? Sure, a lot of teenagers toss out the word love without realizing its weight, but this was surely it. The weight and its intensity, in all of its pain and glory, must be love. "I heard you and Nino got into a snowball fight the other day." "Oh, yes," he chuckled. They'd started the snow attacks last year, and summer hadn't melted the war between them. But anyway, why are we dressed up again?" "Because I want photos of us from this year that don't include you on your knees wearing antlers." Adrian choked on air, sputtering at her unexpected remark. "Listen," he began, trying to compose himself. "If it weren't for a Santa hat and a..." "That doesn't excuse your behavior at the photo shoot. May I remind you of your actions before the accident?" "No, you may not remind me," he said. He'd done it to make Ladybug laugh, but now knowing she was Marinette made the incident embarrassing to him instead of trying to embarrass Ladybug in front of Dylan, Abigail, and the Louis Meikle, whom she admired. "The safe word is Akuma," she insisted. "I get it, stop!" He had no choice but to laugh at himself. "Well, at least you got a kiss out of it." "Sorry about that." "You are?" "Well, it's not as though I asked first." "Technically, I didn't say no." "I didn't give you the time to." Fair. You need to make up for that." Adrian's stomach dropped. "How?" "By kissing me, duh!" She looked up at him with a grin that didn't match her narrowed eyes, which took him off guard far more than her words. That was an expression he'd made hundreds of times as Cat Noir. She'd picked up a mannerism of his. "Well, Adrian couldn't help but sputter, and while she may think it was from the invitation of a kiss, it was because her unconscious imitation of him did something to his heart that he'd never experienced before. In that moment, he knew. Without a doubt, he'd fallen in love. He'd fallen in love, and it nearly made him tear up with how intense the feeling and realization was. He'd fallen in love, and nothing had ever prepared him for how scary that was. Adrien thought love was only scary because of rejection and loss, but neither of those things were about to happen to him. No, this feeling that stirred his chest and wrestled his tear ducts wasn't something he could swallow down. He shouldn't be scared of its overwhelming, all-consuming control it suddenly took over him, because it was everything he'd ever thought he'd wanted, and yet he was. He was, but he was just as scared of losing it as he was of the feeling itself. "Marinette, he began, not knowing where the sentence was going and if he could face her after such an intense realization. But he didn't have to finish it, because his lips met hers before he could choke out the words he hadn't yet chosen. And while he could have let the kiss be just that, he pulled her closer, securing a hand in her hair for a second kiss, inhaling sharply at the touch like she was the first breath after splashing underwater. And yet it didn't seem like it was enough despite the overwhelmingly sweet refuge it gave. Adrien pressed his forehead to hers, fingers still wrapped in her hair, and slowly released his breath, eyes closed as traffic echoed around them. He couldn't tell her. He couldn't tell her his feelings. Not yet. The weight of them was too heavy for even him, so how could he burden her with them? Screams from down the street kept him from answering his questions, dragging her attention from their moment to the superhero he loved so much. "Let's go," she said, voice even as she stole his hand and made for an alley. Just a girl and her reindeer. Come to think of it, this would be the first time they transformed together, wouldn't it? "Spots on!" Marinette exclaimed as soon as they rounded behind a garbage bin. Adrien shook his head a few times to attempt to clear it and pulled Plag out. The last thing he wanted to do was prove Ladybug's dating would become a distraction theory she'd given him during their superhero time together, and while she could break up with him and remember it as a blip in her teenage life, it would break him. No, he had to focus. Dealing with his feelings could wait for his bed and a box of chocolate. "What are you waiting for?" "Can't fight crime if you ain't cute," he said, flicking his stuffed antlers to distract her from his lack of focus. "Cute, but I'd rather fangirl over a catboy instead of a red-nosed helper." Ladybug tossed him a wink as she ran out the alley. He nodded and followed her after transforming to see what the flavor of the day mess they were up against. A look down the street showed a woman wrapped in a giant ribbon who, when she used her powers to wrap, boxed her victims in. What do you think happens when you're in the box?" he asked. "I don't plan on finding out." Ladybug took off, and he knew without exchanging words she went to get a better view. "Well, I guess I'll be here," he sighed, watching a couple get boxed together. "Eye candy as usual." Cat whistled and struck a pose, rubbing his booty when the Akuma victim made eye contact. She scowled and raised her arms, and while he'd expected her to throw ribbon, she flipped forward, rolling herself into a circle and crowing pine needles? Oh, that's terrifying. The victim rolled at him like a runaway tire, sprouted into a Christmas wreath with hands and feet, ripping ornaments off themselves to chuck at him. His right side felt impact as his feet left the ground. "Ladybug!" he exclaimed. "I know," she said, her arm firmly around his waist as she swung him away from the immediate danger. "We need to finish this." "One step ahead of you, kitty. Lucky charm!" "Scissors?" Cat tilted his head to the side, observing the object that materialized in her hand. "I'm not sure either," she said, scanning the area for ideas. "What are we supposed to do? Shank it?" She pursed her lips. "Did you learn that word from Nino?" No, a webtoon. You read webtoons? A roar from the Wreath Monster Akuma victim realigned their priorities. I'll take the lead, Kat said, jumping down from the rooftop. Kat, wait! Too late. Kat turned to see a gift box aimed right at him and felt Ladybug slamming into him for the second time in such a short period. And just like that, the world went dark. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't put two and two together, the follow-up for this is called Ladybug's Mysterious Adventure. I will link it right here. I hope you liked this story, and you can subscribe for more. If you're still listening, comment Red-Nosed Adrian. I will catch you in the next one. Bye!